Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Tonight, gonna dive back into material design and XAML stuff. There's some pull requests outstanding. There's some stuff to clean up. Just some general stuff to do. We'll see where things go. We'll see where questions land. It might be interesting. Might be fun. Um, but first, an announcement. Because announcements are fun. There is a lunch and learn that I am doing coming up on December 20th. See, I know when I'm presenting. That's not surprising to me at all. So, this is going to be a talk on Git and moving people's Git knowledge forward. Most developers have at least hold on, we have to do this. Did they not use oh, they dropped it. They dropped it. I realize I didn't expect them to actually use it, but when I submitted the abstract for this, I definitely included the obligatory XKCD comic of how most people interact with Git. Like, there's quite a few developers that this is where they are. So this isn't going to be quite your basic Git stuff. This assumes that people probably already have at least a rudimentary understanding of some of the basics: commit, push, pull, that kind of thing. But the goal is going to be looking at, rather than individual Git commands, but more of using Git effectively. So oftentimes I kind of take it for granted, especially as I'm going fast and I'll just do stuff and people look at me and go, whoa, what did you just do? And so kind of going over what those techniques are, and kind of as part of that, weaving in the Git stuff for doing it. Obviously, I love Git cracking. There's going to be a heavy dose of Git cracking. But some stuff you just kind of have to do on the terminal as well. So there's going to be a nice mix in there. But key things like fixing mistakes, handling merging, right? I even got asked by a colleague earlier today about, well, I've got these changes that were on a branch, but then they got reverted, and now my branch is over here, and now I'm trying to get those changes back over on this. How's the best way to do it? Those types of things. And then recovering lost work, because this is always a fun one, right? People, you force push, and it's like, oh shoot, my stuff is gone. Well, it might not be as gone as you think it is. So hopefully, regardless of where you're at in your journey of Git, there is interesting stuff to be in here. There's also a video that I just did for some of the Git Kraken folks on Git Revert. That should be coming out soon. So that'll be fun. Plus, it features my Christmas squirrel, which you know it's going to be good. You know it's going to be good. Okay, so my thought tonight was to dive into some of the material design in XAML stuff. And there's a couple outstanding pull requests and things that I wanted to look at. Like, one, I don't understand why this auto PR is failing. So there may be something that we have to look at in XAML test, because this shouldn't be causing failures, but I haven't even looked at what the failures are. So that's interesting. But Nikolai requested that I take a look at this on stream. And if I was feeling up to it last week, I probably would have done it then. So I apologize. It's been over a week, but I figured we'd take a look at this. I kind of have a hunch I might know what's going on, just because it's the tab control, but we're gonna take a look. So let's start with this. Let's just make sure I'm absolutely clear. So for those people wanting to follow along at home, there's the PR in question. We're going to take a look at the linked item here. So for some reason, the tab control disconnects tab item data context when tab control horizontal content alignment is stretch when a window is opened. This window can either be a tooltip popping up or a context menu being shown. Hang on. For some reason, disconnects. Interesting. Okay. So that's a little shocking to me. May not be what I thought it was. So this will be fun. For some reason, that's the same description. I've added a UI test which reproduces the issue. Executes on all of them here, but don't really know how to go about solving it. See if we've got any great ideas. I don't know if I have great ideas, but I know how to poke at things. My best guess is it's something to do with the virtualizing stack panel. Maybe. Yeah, the disconnected items kind of thing is possible, but the virtualize and stack panel shouldn't be unloading items that are visible. But yeah, that is, well, apparently it reproduces nicely in a test, so that's always a plus. So let's see. So we've got inline data here, horizontal content alignment. Why is it a string? Oh, because it's being injected in the middle. Haha, that's great. Okay, so let's start here. So PR 2984. Yeah, so that's where I want to be. This is where I want to be. Oh, quick side note. Quick side note. I found a library last night that made me very, very excited. So I'm going to share it because this library deserves a lot more love than it's gotten. So, like, it's got 1,700 stars. So there is a development tool called Fiddler that I have loved and used for many years. It allows, well, I should say, so Fiddler sets itself up as a system proxy, and then it is able to watch the traffic that your app sends out, which is great because now you can, as the name implies, fiddle with it. You can artificially slow it down. You can, when it sees the request going out, it can just short circuit the request and automatically send back canned replies. So you can do kind of fun things there for testability. You can spoof responses. You can edit on the way back in if you know, well, I want the server to mostly provide this, but I want to tweak the payload. Yeah, you can do all that. It's kind of cool. And Fiddler has a library. Telerik purchased them many years back, and they have a thing called Fiddler Core, which is programmatic access to do all the Fiddler things, which is cool. But this is an open source version that's, I won't say equivalent feature set, but it has a lot of the coolness of what is needed. So I had fun building a fun little setup here. And the best part, it has this examples folder with sort of your CLI, a Windows service, and then it even has a WPF sample. So if you're just curious what it can do, clone the repo, set the WPF sample as your startup project, and fire in the hole. The only thing that tripped me up is the solution file is underneath SRC, but this solution file does reference back to these examples. So if you're looking for it, I was looking for the solution at the root. It was down one level. Oops, not a big deal. So, okay, back to what I was actually doing. Okay, so reproducing the issue. So we've got this. So let's fire this guy up. This my material design example. Sweet, already have it open. Okay, close all tabs, and then I was mucking with my Visual Studio setup, and I reset all my settings. Solution Explorer, get on the left where you belong. Ay, ay, ay. I will say that is one thing that I know I am weird. The defaults on Visual Studio are Solution Explorer on the right. No, it goes on the left. That's where it belongs. It must go there. Okay, so let's take a quick look here and let's see. So this is tab control tests, and it's got a bunch of stuff in there. So let's go in here, WPF, tab control tests. Perfect. Okay, don't care about you, care about you. Okay, so let's start with this. We're just going to drop this down because apparently stretch is the failure case, so we're going to just limit this thing to one execution. And yeah, run the test. I don't know where I want you. Go down at the bottom. You can sit down there for now because I don't know what to do with you. Normally, I don't even dock the Test Explorer, and I normally just leave it sitting off loose. It's one of those windows that I usually prefer floating, but meh. Today, docking will be. Okay, where are we at? So we're going to be UI tests. Well, you're busy, I'm sure, compiling the universe. Yeah. I changed branches, and I know I was on a really old branch a minute ago, so it's probably has to rebuild all the projects. I was on an old enough commit that it's probably out there. Come on. Okay, well, that was a little too fast. So, but the nice part is the test did reproduce nicely. Test failed. Let's look at the assertion. Assert equals expected AAAA got disconnected item. So that's not exactly shocking here. So key thing to note on the assertion, it was line 113. So this assertion here failed, but you'll note that it matches this assertion. So we are able to query the tab item. We are able to query the data context property. I'm curious why, isn't there an extension method for get data context? I think we can just do that. The XAML test generates a lot of extension methods. So get property is the low level option, but there's a source generator that rips through all of the dependency properties. It doesn't include all of them. There's a handful of them that just straight up excludes based upon like data type, because some things I just haven't written serializers for, and I didn't bother to waste time trying to write for all of them. So some of them I just exclude. And if somebody wants them, feel free to add a serializer and go after it directly, but the generator doesn't add the extra properties. Okay, so this is fairly straightforward. I am interested in grabbing it here and then playing with it to see what is going on. So debug test. I can't remember. I was trying to look to see where the base of this thing is. I believe, I can't remember. I think there was either a property or something that we added in the base class before to allow or to prevent the Visual Studio attachment. Because I want to breakpoint my test project, but leave the WPF app running without attaching to it. See, and now my window's hung. So I need to set. There's a field in it. I can't remember what I did. I did something, and it was down in here where it allowed me to not debug attach. Oh, it's just sitting right there. Allow Visual Studio attach. False. Okay, that's what I want. Because I want to debug. So what's happening right now is XAML test is firing up a separate process outside of my unit test run, and then it's attaching the debugger to it. The problem is I want my unit test to pause when I hit a breakpoint, but not the other process. So I'm intentionally blocking the attachment. So unit test is paused, but now I can play here. And it's complete. Wait. Okay. And we can do fun things like attach Snoop to this guy. So we're gonna go with our good pal Snoop here real quick. And we may want to go back and catch this before we do the right click button with context menu. So you have a context menu. Okay, so let's take a little gander in here. So dock panel. Well, actually, so the property in question that was being mucked with was the something alignment, horizontal content alignment. Where does this get put in? Oh, horizontal content alignment. So if I go tab control and I do horizontal content alignment and I do left, you happier? That's happy. Interesting. If I set you back to stretch. So what's interesting to me that I'm noticing is as I'm clicking on here, I go left. So I'm noticing there is no selected tab, which is surprising me. Because generally in a tab control, you must have a selected tab. There's that. And that one doesn't detach. See, you'll note that underline that indicates which tab is selected. just isn't there. That alone is interesting to me and seems like something's amiss. Selected index 0. So this guy should be selected. What is the setup for this? What is the setup here? Okay, so we do have, let's see, we've got we are data binding. We have an item template. The indentation here is a little off. Okay. So the items are being set internally here. Interesting. So the other thing that I'm curious to test on this real quick, I would like to know if this is something with our style. I suspect it is, but oh, it's not gonna let me null it out. Fine. Okay. Null this guy out. I am curious if this reproduce. Oh, problem with F5 is it doesn't actually debug my test. I am curious if this reproduces without the material design style. Oh, that. Oh, interesting. So it does, even with some of the other bits specify. Oh, well, hang on. The horizontal alignment isn't correct. Hey, Justin Bieber. We are chasing an interesting issue. This is the pull requested question. The tab control seems to be behaving very strangely. I don't have a good explanation to it. I'm also curious. Shouldn't the Okay, I want to turn off material design in XAML for this test. Let's do that. Let's see here. Initialize with material design in XAML. I kind of just want to have an initialize. You know what? Do I not have just a built-in initialize with defaults? Yeah, I really just want this method instead. Okay, so minimize you for a second. Come back here, load XAML. We're gonna go with initialize with defaults. Copilot, stop helping me. Stop helping me. Create window, and we want to drop that. Like, I realize I'm gonna break all kinds of stuff by doing some of these changes. We're gonna get rid of that. We're gonna get rid of those. Let's see here. Get rid of all of that stuff. That should be fine. Okay. So now this thing should run without material design in XAML. Debug. Because the weird combination of nulling out the style on the tab control plus implicit styles on the tab items is problematic. What do I do? Material design is an undeclared prefix. Well, of course it is. Thought we got rid of it. Oh, nope. That's still gonna be a thing. There. Got it. Okay, let's fire that off. And I probably don't even need the style null anymore because I'm dropping everything else, so probably make it even simpler, but shouldn't hurt anything. Okay. So that works. Now, what's interesting to me is the case in question. Take a look at this guy. That's a really interesting situation. I completely agree. Let's see. Horizontal. So horizontal content alignment is set to stretch. Which it's interesting that the material design one, when setting it, causes the tab items to fill the space. But the short version is this does not reproduce. It does not reproduce on the base stuff. So, okay. So that's good-ish. We can say for certain that it is something we are doing. Okay, so let's put some of this back. Okay, so we're going to go here, test base, discard that line, keep the rest, tab control tests, keep all of that. I don't know if the primary mid is relevant, but we'll put it back for now. Discard, we'll put that guy back to the style. Leave that. And we want to put all of these back. Actually, we can just discard this whole file. Okay, boom, boom, boom. Okay, there we go. That gives... Okay, so that should put it back. Okay, so let's go and take a look at the theme in question that is causing us so many headaches. Tab control. And let's see if we can chase down what is going on. So this is the base one. And specifically, I am interested in chasing. I don't need you anymore. It's horizontal content alignment. So there is probably a template binding on this somewhere. Hey, look, right there. Horizontal virtualizing stack panel. So let's go with a couple immediate theories. So there's a couple more down here. This one wouldn't be at play because we're not using center. This one certainly could be. Centered header panel visibility. Ah, I wonder if that's why we don't see the underline. Because it's toggling between these two. Oh, interesting. So in the case of stretch, we're using centered header panel, which is this uniform grid. I bet you dollars to donuts this triggers what does it. I'll bet on that one. Because that would also explain why we lose the underline when it gets set. Okay. So, debug test. And I'm wondering if that's what's going on, is we've got two items hosts. It's interesting that the item would become disconnected. But these are the headers, not the content. And that's probably what's input. A new processor has been purchased. It is been shipped and should arrive. I think it's set to arrive in 4 days. So hopefully by next week's stream, I have a new processor. Or if things go really poorly, I cancel next week's stream because I botch replacing it. Both are possible. So, yeah, okay. So, first thing I'm noticing right away, this guy down here has the selected item. This guy up here, not so much. Willing to bet that's what's doing it. So, okay. So let's start with this. Let's just kill off this guy. And then let's try this one more time. So we should now be left with only the uniform grid. Let's see. Is items host rows? There were build errors. Header panel. What is tied to header panel that's still broken? Let's see. I kind of don't want to deal with you either. We're going to get rid of you. And I kind of don't want to deal with you. So we're going to get rid of you. Let's see. This is the same deal. Same deal. Let's see. You guys are all the same thing. Could have just got them all in one shot. Okay. Let's see. Centered header panel. Centered header panel is fine. Header panel is the problem. Well, header panel isn't the problem. I think header panel is the correct thing. Oh, thank you. Thank you. There we go. I told myself last night that I should turn them on. I was recording some videos last night, and as luck would have it, when the problem with pre-recording things is then my perfectionist gets a hold of me and I'll do it like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times until I'm happy with it, which isn't good for getting things done quickly. The problem is I had finally gotten a good run and I was almost at the end, and then all of a sudden, bring, new subscriber. I'm like, dang, nabbit. So I just turned off all my Twitch stuff and then forgot to turn them back on. I really need to make separate scenes for offline recording so I don't have this problem. But thank you. Okay, so, oh, did I? Okay. There we go. So there's that, there's that. Okay, so that's the problem. We've got 2 items hosts, and one of them is friendly, the other one is not. Okay. So that's the crux of the problem. So now I'm guessing if I let this guy go, he will probably pass. And data context is test passes. Okay, test went green. Yay! Okay, so we know what is causing it. Now the question is, what is the proper fix for this? It's interesting that I guess there's multiple cases where we set this guy visible. So hang on, let's look at this. So where do we actually set this guy to visible? So in the case of stretch, we set him visible. Collapsed, we set him visible if we're centered. Okay. We set him visible if we're left. Oh, left and has uniform width. Interesting. So hold on. If has uniform width is true, and we're right, left, center, or stretch. So, okay, so there's some cleanup here that could be done better. Because this guy is set to visible. There's some weird conditions here. It almost feels like I want him visible if uniform width is true or horizontal content alignment is stretch. I think. I guess technically if I want to match this, or stretch or center. That feels like an easier setup. Well, hang on. Here's the inverse of center. Okay, yeah. So some of these triggers are weird. Okay, so let's separate some of these things. These are the center ones. These are the left ones. Oh, and here are the right ones. Yeah, so there's... Okay. That is bizarre. Bizarre. Okay, so there's some cleanup we can do to these triggers. This is overly verbose, and we can make it simpler. Okay, so we can clean that up. But back to the other question. What is the proper way to toggle these two things out? So I want to check the docs on is items host because I think you're only allowed a single is items host. And I think that's I'm going from memory here. So we're going to double check some docs. The panel is a container for user interface items that are generated by an items control. Yes. But I thought you could only have one. You cannot data bind to this property. Well, that's going to be... Well, it won't be a problem. We've got triggers. We don't need a data bind. It'd be nice to just bind it to visibility or is visible. But, okay, so that doesn't tell me. Something in the back of my mind, though, is telling me that is items host, you can only have one of at a time. I think that is true. Pretty sure that's true. So let's put these guys back. And I think another possible fix here is to just get rid of this. And I think that will work. But we're gonna test. Let's just run the test because with the stack panel in and only one items host, because I'm thinking what actually needs to happen is the triggers probably need to toggle which one of those is the items host. I think. That's my thinking. It would be nicer if we could avoid having two separate containers. The problem is in order to do this differently, we would have to... Yeah, okay. So getting rid of is items host true fixes it. Let's just confirm we go red if I put it back. And then I'm willing to bet if I invert the order of these, it'll also pass. That's my theory. Last in wins is the working theory. We're going to run it one more time like this. Just to confirm we're in a broken state. And then then if that's the case, we'll invert the order of these controls. Okay, so that failed. And now if I do this, theory is that because the uniform grid is now last, it should pass. Visual Studio, why'd you gray that out? Okay. Visual Studio, you've lost your mind. I'm going to change this so I'm not looking. I want to look at it in the 7.0 version. Not that we have that many if-defs. but let's look at it in the big version. Because that's the theory, is that you can't have two items hosts, because it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? Because if you're inside of an items control and it's generating items, the whole point of setting that property is so that it knows which container contains those items. Ah, that didn't fix it. Interesting. Interesting. So simply having, okay, so let's put it back to the here. What if I just turn off this as an items host? Because I'm thinking that the issue is having the two items hosts. That still seems the most plausible, because when the items control is generating elements and it needs to put them in a panel, it needs to find the panel and add them. And apparently it's adding them to both. But when you add them to both, you're sharing that same data context between two things. So it's not exactly shocking that one of them gets disconnected. Okay, so yeah, so the issue is, okay, so the issue is two items hosts bad. Okay, let's go back down here and address these triggers, because I think we can clean up these triggers, and then I think the solution is going to be setters that toggle which one of these things is the items host. So I think what we'll end up doing is not having is items host on either of these, and instead the triggers that make the thing visible, we're just going to use that because that seems better. Okay. So the centered items panel we want visible in the case of stretch, or in the case of center with has uniform content alignment. So I'm somewhat tempted to change this. Because really this is just iterating through the other values and just comparing against true. And it seems much nicer if we could not do that. So if stretch, we're going to go there. So I think, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to do some else, if else logic in here. So the else case on all of these things for false, because it's weird that some of these, well, I guess it does go false, true on all these, right? False, true, false, true. Okay. So the way to do equals else. So we want centered visible in the case of stretch, or and then effectively an else case on this trigger. If it's not stretched but has uniform tab width. But we don't want uniform, if uniform tab width is true, I'm almost tempted to, well, I was going to say, I'm almost tempted to set uniform tab width to true inside of one trigger and let that chain into the next trigger, but that's kind of yucky. It also is exposed outside, which I don't like either. So we want not stretched and true is the other case where we would set this. So if we do, so let's put this trigger back, because this trigger we want, this is the easy case, right? On stretch, we do this. The next one we want is a multi-data trigger this time, I think. And then I think what we will do is we're going to do close to this. Multi-data data trigger. And then here, binding, path, and you bind to an attached property with parens around the name of it. The syntax for an attached property. But we want relative source source I think we can just do templated parent. The autocode is not helping me, which is not making my life easier. Okay, so markup extension property is not supported. I don't know what you're complaining about. And then this guy here, we effectively want not stretch. So, do we already have a converter for that? Do we have a converter? I don't expect to be one exactly on here, but I'm looking for like a not default. So the other, horizontal content alignment. We jump to this guy. Where is it? A, B, C, D. Oh, jump to me too deep. Don't see it there. Horizontal. Okay, you're making this hard on me. So the enum here, left, center, right, stretch. Right, so I was hoping to have like an equals converter or something that took in a see equals to visibility bool all and maybe it is easiest to leave the huge number of setters. Oh, that's so yucky though. So yucky. I was gonna favor a because we have like a not zero converter. It does a double conversion. I was hoping to find like something that did an int because enums in C# are just named numbers. And so you can do numbery stuff with them. And oftentimes you can abuse that in a value converter. I don't see a good one. Okay, fine. Okay. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna put it back. Really don't like it that much, but we're gonna put it back. Okay, so we're gonna do this. We're going to copy both of these, paste them, put you up here, and this property is going to be is items host. Oh, can I not assign to it due to it not being a that's interesting. That is very interesting. Got it. So that's I was thinking I could just assign to it in the setter. Ooh, that's going to be an interesting problem. So I really need to find a way to get both of these together. It's almost like I want a virtualizing uniform grid. That's really interesting. So the only reason to have a virtualizing stack panel, and actually we've kind of killed virtualization by doing this, because the default has a virtualizing stack panel here, but by having this one here and cloning all the items into here, we've negated the benefits of virtualization because we're still creating all of them. It's probably not nearly as big of a hit because we're setting visibility collapse, so whatever. And if you're trying to do horizontal content alignment, it is interesting. We've overloaded the horizontal content alignment because the default WPF one doesn't apply that to the tab headers. So I'm wondering if the solution here is this. Let's put all of this. We get rid of you. We get rid of you. We get rid of you. We're not going to collapse and hide and show these things. But in this particular case, we do this setter instead. Setter, paste, and then we go true. So where does this property get consumed? I'm willing to bet it's in here somewhere. Find all. Ah, that's a little big. Let's see. So there's the tab assist. Nothing fancy in there. Setter, condition. Oh, interesting. So this is the only place where that's being consumed. Ah. Got it. That's interesting. So the idea was, man, I almost, so the idea of wanting to set that has uniform tab width property sort of implies you want a different template. Sort of implies you want a different template. Man, I keep telling myself to resist temptation, but I'm very tempted to effectively build myself source generators for XAML. Because I would absolutely love to be able to have a single source of truth and then conditional the template generation. Because I don't want to copy this entire template just to change that one thing. But having both of them in the same template is also problematic. Not being able to set the isItems host. Let's look at this guy. Category behavior, bindable false. That's the reason. Now we could make this binding work. Should we make the binding work? That's the path of least resistance, to just make the binding work. That's the path of least resistance, to make the binding work. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are going to throw away everything we've done in this file, and we're just going to make the binding work. Okay, so now we're back to here, though I do want some separation because there's, I think it's just left and right that need an extra new line in there because that's hard to see where one stops and the next one starts. Okay, little white space in there. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to toggle the status of this property based upon the visibility of its grid. Effectively, if I was able to write it, what I'd really like to write is visible uh, relative source self. Like this is realistically what I want to write. That is not going to work, but we can cheat. We can cheat. So we can go tab assist. Come on. Any day now, Visual Studio. Any day. Thank you. Okay. First thing we're going to do is file scope that namespace because why not? Okay. Then we are going to generate a new Copilot. You can do better than that. I've seen you do better. So if it's not obvious, I have GitHub Copilot enabled. And there are days where I do feel like Copilot is a poorly named product because it's in the driver's seat and I'm the one along for the ride. Okay, so we're going to go with bool. And we're going to call it bindable is items host. This is items host, right? Yeah. Plural. Oh, did you just... Oh, no, it got it. Good. Tab. Okay, and then we're going to go here. But I would like to make this thing not exposed. So we're going to... Because this is not an API that I really want other people consuming. And there's an argument to be made that if somebody copies the template, that then this is problematic for them, but that happens so seldom, I'm not overly concerned. Okay. So there's that. Okay, now what we are going to do here is we would like a default value of false. And then I would like to gen a new on bindable items host. Changed. You know what? Screw it. Hey, Copilot, write the method for me. Can you figure out what I want just from that? No? Disappointing. At such high... was it Control-Alt there? I can't remember the... Where's the little button? Normally the... Hang on. Did I lose Copilot when I reinstalled everything? Hang on. We're going to double check. Oh, I don't have Copilot. Oh, hang on. We're fixing that. We are fixing that. I apparently lost it when I... Oh, quick update all. Yeah, sure, why not? I apparently lost Copilot when I uninstalled. Normally it gets over eager and wants to help. We'll wait until a good stopping point and then we'll install it. Because Copilot, yeah, it is at times frankly amazing. So if D is panel bum 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 E dot is, wait, isn't that property on panel? Isn't that what we just saw? Let's see. Panel is items host. Don't you hide from me. I know you're there. Gives bool e dot new value. Oh, it's because I use D, not panel. You gotta be smarter than the machine. Okay, so anytime this thing changes, blah, 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 that'll work. Okay, now we can come back over here. Let's see. So this is going to be, what's the namespace include here? WPF colon. So WPF colon tab assist. Bindable is items host. And now we can do this in both places. Now we will see if this is good enough. I don't know how, if it's going to be hip to those things changing, but pile, and then we're going to give this guy a. The nice part is we've got a nice test. So, Nikolai, thank you for the test. This has been very easy to work off of. Okay. Come on, build, compile. I do wonder if there is benefits in turning off some of the multi-targeting when running locally. That is a thing we could do, because I have it set to multi-target for several different frameworks, which sometimes slows it down. Let's see, hold on. Tab item is already defined in this scope. Oh, whoops. Yeah, that's an error. Okay, so let's just go for gold. Test Explorer, show me what you can do. We're gonna pass immediately, first time right away. Be cool if it worked. Just like that. Just like that. Boom! Booyah! Booyah! So let's turn all of them on. Because I'd like to. We should verify all the cases. All passed. Hold on. Didn't run them all. I think it's because I only had one selected before, and so it was only selected on the internal item. Hang on, the one case passed. Okay, so all of those cases pass. Do you always keep Test Explorer on the bottom? Just curious, because I think a person's Visual Studio layout says a lot about a person. Not sure what it says, but a lot. So, no, I only docked it here. Typically, I will leave my Test Explorer as a floating window, like most of the time. And usually, I have multiple monitors, and so generally, Test Explorer is living on another monitor. Oftentimes, what I will do though is if I'm using live unit testing, I will dock the live unit testing window and the Test Explorer window together, because my brain thinks that those things go together. Despite them being, aside from having the word test in them, they do kind of, like, they show sort of the same data, but sort of not, especially if you filter. But I will say I do agree with you that a person's Visual Studio layout says a lot about them. For example, people who leave their Solution Explorer on the right, those are people who are too lazy to change defaults. It belongs on the left, like a normal person. I was told at one point in time that the Solution Explorer on the left was actually the default way back for, I think it was Visual C++ setup. And so it's a way to make people think that you actually know Visual C++. I don't really know it, but my Solution Explorer goes on the left. I'm also noticing my Git changes are enabled. My Visual Studio problems that I had. So I'm running the preview here. The non-preview one is working just fine for me. But I refuse to give up my preview build because I like having some of the latest things. And I recently uninstalled everything because I was trying to figure out if I could fix some of my problems. That didn't fix my problems. Okay, so we're going to shut this down real quick. So that fixes the problem. So we're going to push these changes out here in just a second. So we cleaned up this test here. That's a little tiny. Let me make that bigger for people. Let me make that a little bigger. Little bigger. So we filtered that down to use the extension method for get data context because that was a little cleaner. We deleted some spaces, added some spaces. This line I don't really think we need. Okay, so we want the test. The test base, we don't want that changed. That one we're going to abandon because this was just for our own personal debugging. This guy here is the actual fix because we can't have two items hosts. Or let me rephrase. Two items hosts breaks the data context because you can't have it living inside of two places at once. I think that's functionally the problem, is it's trying to share the element between two hosts and world is ending. So that's the actual fix. This is adding in the tab assist. Okay, so we're going to just push this. I think Nikolai usually leaves his branches where I can push. So I'm going to try to push. Let's see here. Just double checking. He's not in the chat. Okay, it's going to ask too. White space. Where? I need context. White space. Oh, this. Oh, all of this one. Last file, I think this one. Yeah, you're right. We should get rid of some of these extra lines because those look ugly. Good catch. Good catch. And then we'll just discard these changes. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so fixing issue with tab control. C live stream recording. The issue appears to be multiple panels with is items host equals true. That is a good question. And at some point, I am going to actually set up custom emojis on my thing. I actually thought about it last week and then got distracted writing code, which often happens. Okay, push, crossing fingers. Yes. Okay, so there's that. You can throw this away. Okay, so let's take a crack at some of these other PRs and get this thing cleaned up. The other thing I may do is try to get this thing set for a release. What is going on here? Okay. This one has focus visual style set. It appeared to cause conflicts with MA apps. We may need to... let's circle back to that one. That one may be a little more interesting to unravel. Okay, so this one here interests me a great deal. Because as far as I'm aware, I didn't do anything to break XAML test, but apparently something broke XAML test. And I don't know what it is. And I'm really hoping it's not something stupid like, oh, you're now on net 7, therefore your world ends. Because that would make me unhappy. Border can be overwritten. So this thing just straight up failed. Let's see. Started server. Then the log ended. Like the thing Oh, I have a theory. Did somebody do something bad? By that somebody, I mean me. And let's open this up real quick. And rev the UI test up. Because XAML test makes a big assumption that the target framework that the unit test project is running on is the same one that it launches in. So it spins a WPF app, but it is trying to pick up on the target framework that is being used. And so if those two things don't align, and you reference a user control in your unit test project, you end up with XAML test running net6, trying to reference a net7 library and consuming a user control. And I'm pretty sure that goes kablooey. This is still net6 Windows though. Okay, well, let's go here. This one. We're going to do this. And then we're going to well, let's not rebase it just yet. Why is I keep opening new ones. Okay. Real quick. Manage extensions. We're just going to make sure that... Huh? Didn't we do this once already? Thought I did this once already. Okay. Close. Install. There you go. Okay. Slight pause while we wait for Visix installer to do its thing. And Copilot to take over my life and do everything. Because there are times where it is absolutely magical. And then there are times where I am reminded why we don't have AI writing software. Well, we do have AI writing software. Why I am not worried about AI taking my job yet. Okay, I'm thinking I had multiple instances of Visual Studio open because those are not the two extensions I was hoping to get, but we'll let them update just the same. Oh, it's because I've got multiple things open. That's why I've got too many windows. Too many windows, too many windows, too many windows. Where is there we go. Shut down all of the extraneous Visual Studio windows. Get some RAM back. The world will be a happier place. Come on. Come on. Come on. I know you can do it. You can do it, little ML.NET model builder. I believe in you. I believe in you. At least a little bit. While we're waiting, I want to go over and I want to pop open XAML test because since we have Dependabot firing up, I'm pretty confident that's latest and greatest. And I kind of just want to look and see, did I bump XAML test to support net7 yet or not? I can't remember if I did. Hey, look. I net7'd it. So it should have latest. Let's just check on... Yeah, because it did the auto build, auto release. Oh. It's interesting to me that these pull requests... what's Windows 7 doing the frameworks? I've seen Dash Windows, but not with the 7. So the 7 is minimum version. And for the net7 stuff, I really don't need it. I think I copied and pasted from the net6 one because I don't think net7 even supports net7. Yeah, what is the framework requirements? Let's see, that's ASP.NET Core, that's the SDK. What is the... No, I just want to know what your Windows versions are. So typically, rather than a 7 there, what you would more often see is when people are referencing like the native Windows APIs for like doing notifications or any of that stuff, you'll typically see like 10 dot whatever is the appropriate version of the Windows SDK that they're wanting to have as their minimum version. So because the Windows SDK, every release, there's new features, new fancy stuff that people can do with it. Great, huzzah. But you have to set your required framework version accordingly to say, well, if I'm leveraging a Windows 11 feature, I can't use that on Windows 10. That doesn't work. So generally that's all the 7 means is support all of them. Yeah, it's a little unusual, and like I said, honestly, I could probably drop it. It's not likely to be doing much. I'm just really surprised that these are my latest 2 builds, because these would have been PR builds, which would have merged because the PRs are closed. And I would have expected a build to kick off from those auto-magically. And I don't see an actions build against Master doing that. Because this was 3 days ago. This was 10 days ago. Now, maybe it's smart enough to realize, oh, I'm updating something in your GitHub Actions. We don't need to do a build there, which is impressive, but shocking to me at the same time. Because I kind of would have expected it to... Oh, dear heavens. Do I really have that many branches open? Oh, no, this is the branches that have been run. Okay, that's... Whoo! Panic mode. I still get... Weird. I still get builds in normal. I'm not sure what you mean. Yeah, and normally I would expect that too. I just don't understand why these wouldn't have done that. I would have expected. Let me. Well, one, before I say I don't understand why it's not doing it, let me look. Okay, so branches. That, I mean, yes. Pull request, workflow dispatch. Maybe, but I don't see a funky filter. I mean, nothing that would prevent it from kicking off a build, because I would see at least checkout or similar running. Huh. Just in the interest of paranoia. Let's go here. Run workflow. We're just gonna workflow dispatch that guy. I don't see anything. It's not on top. Even if it's given. Yeah. Yeah, so we're just gonna run it. See what happens. Okay, did you finish? Thank you. Except for you didn't load the one extension that I wanted you to load. Come here, Visual Studio. Get yourself running. Get yourself all happy. Continue without code. Extensions, manage extensions, online. Thank you. The one that I wanted is the one you did not install. Okay, try again. Thank you. Modify. And away we go. Okay, because I'd like to pull this thing, and I think what I'm also going to do here is I'm going to drop into this PR, and I'm going to just tell Dependabot to rebase itself. So, Dependabot, do your thing. Oh, and I don't know if I actually fixed the... Because it was pointed out to me last time, I think it was by you, Benjamin, that there is the auto mergey bit has... I do not have it set. That there is a condition you can set here. Though in this case, I don't think it matters for the auto merge. I didn't want to light Copilot first. When it's too slow at suggesting things, I realize I notice I find myself disappointed. It's not reading my mind at that moment. Yes, absolutely. I found myself getting disappointed when it doesn't interpret my thoughts. It is unfortunately set a standard for itself that is potentially too high. Apparently, I have broken all of my shortcuts with my uninstall, reinstall, and nuking of settings. Okay. That was a lot of work. Why did my Dependabot not? There you go. Jump me up here, reset local. Okay. It's AI though. It'll get there in due time. It just needs more code ingested. That's the terrifying part. That itself is the absolute terrifying part. You're probably not completely wrong. Because it, unfortunately, despite how much time I spend coding, it probably spends more hours coding than I do. Okay, so I'd like to not rerun all the tests, but I would like to rerun the button tests at least. And I've noticed you have Test Explorer, get that open. So I would like to rerun the button tests at least, because those are the ones that broke. What fun fact, if you just do the auto merge, that turns on GitHub's auto merge. You wanted to do it at the top of your action, not the bottom, as I quickly learned. Oh, interesting. Right, because you'll want to have it automatically enable the auto merge right away. Interesting. So if you do that though, you would not put it as a separate job. You would put it in line. Well, maybe I still would want it as a separate job for the different permissions that it requests. But you would want it as the first job, not the second. That is good to know. Thank you. Okay, so that built. Let's just run all of these and see what happens. Okay, well, the good news is it recreates. The bad news is I have no idea why. It's the last thing that the conditions have. Otherwise, GitHub throws an error because it can't auto merge something that's ready to merge. If it's the last thing and the conditions have passed, basically. Good to know. Okay, so this guy fired up. I mean, I'm noticing. So my theory that it's using the wrong version of XAML test exe doesn't really hold water because, well, hold on. This Net 6 Windows is. Oh, I wonder if this. Okay, so working theory, this is the wrong version. Let's go dn spy. And by one moment, grab my favorite decompiler, and we're gonna go take a quick peek, see at that file. So file, open. So I am interested in knowing, so that's its path. But again, in this case, this is a Net 6.0. That's the TFM for my UI test framework. Not the this doesn't there's a I need to open the directory, I think, because I believe the DLL is actually what I want. Let's see here. Real quick, I'm just gonna clean out all those log files. I really should. Oh no, not open PowerShell. I want open in terminal. Please, terminal window. Thank you. rm star.log. Boom. Okay, clean up some of the extra garbage. I want to look at you. What is your framework? Let's see here. Where do I see that? It's in here somewhere. It's in here somewhere. Is it there? No. I don't know which one of these it ended up actually copying in, which is still making me question. Let's see. Where does one see? There is a place where you can see what the target framework was that was compiled against. Where do I get that? 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 Oh, was it looking at the underlying references that I got it from before? Because those are all 6.0 references, which makes a lot of sense. Those are definitely 6.0 references. And more importantly, the app does appear to start. Because it does start, it lands here, and then immediately goes into create window, but it's like create window throws. Because these are the remote logs that get created. So looking at the diff here, what was the prior version? 335 and 354. Let's go here, here, here. 3 335. So bump, 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 bump. So adding net 7 was an actual change that got made. We dealt with some pack warnings. But aside from those were the only changes that went in. So let's take a look at my local NuGet config. Well, actually, maybe I should look at this from a binary log standpoint. So let's do that. That's probably an easier way. So I'd like to know what the heck is going on. Open a terminal. .NET build binary log. Pretty please. Because ultimately what I'm looking for, when XAML test gets installed, the NuGet package contains both the DLL that gets referenced, it contains a targets file that gets loaded up that's responsible for copying around the exe. What else does it do? It has the exe itself that's referenced in there. And I want to know which one is getting copied where. So, XAML test. Let's go. Okay. Let's see. We don't need all of that. I'm most interested in. So here's the evaluation of it. XAML test, XAML test. So it is grabbing this item here. XAML test extra outputs. So it's pulling from my NuGet package, which makes sense. 354, which makes sense. Pulls that in. Let's see. That's fine. Okay, so it grabs the targets file, does the needful. Great. I mean, it's copying in the right item. I won't eliminate a packing problem. And apparently my build just failed on that side too. So maybe I need to actually address whatever the heck is going on this side before I worry about downstream stuff. So what is going on? So this is the net 7 target failed. Let's see. Starts remote process. Okay, so we're gonna, well, round and round we go. Let's take a quick look at this. Because I don't open repo. Dev XAML test. Let's see. Jump to here, jump to here. You can delete that. Well, I may want this to look at exactly what changed to support net 7. Oh, I did also remove the factory stuff because it was wrong. There may have been a couple extra changes that all got bundled into that. That's exciting. Okay, so start. Why are you failing? So specifically, we're doing app tests. App tests on net 6 failed. I'm wondering if maybe my thing failed previously and I let's see. Open a project. We'll test. I'm wondering if the build failed and maybe it just dropped the failed build out of the log. I don't know what the retention policy is on those. So I would have expected if that was the case to see more of them. Okay, one. Don't like seeing the tabs. Bother me. Okay. So we're gonna start with tests, app tests. I would like to see the net 6 version of the app tests, and I want to see you run. Actually, I technically want to see you fail because I'd really rather see this thing replicate what's happening on my build agent. Come on, I actually want to see failure. See, this is the part that sucks. On start, because that's not the behavior we just saw here, right? On start, launches remote app, failed. Launches with debug flag. Blah 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 blah. And that's the only fail. No, there's 2 failures in here. What's the name of the other one? I wish there was a good way to debug action failures. Doesn't happen very often that you can't replicate locally, but when you do, it can be super hard to figure out. Amen. I've actually thought about ways of trying to be able to do remote debugging into the host. Even though there's no networking routes in, I've contemplated like a reverse proxy approach into the agent to be able to grab it. You'd obviously still be bound by things like your build minutes and that kind of thing getting in the way, but it can be super handy to be able to grab that information and pull it back out. Trying to look. So this is the same test. Launches with debug flag. So this is not the same test. Launches remote app. Launches with debug flag in net 7. If we do that, not sure if it's possible, but is it possible to essentially build a dump like you can with a web app or such that you can go through and debug locally? Yeah, and that's part of what was set up on there. So for this build here, you off to the side. You'll note here I'm attempting to upload crash dumps, and you'll note when I run my .NET test, I am very intentionally setting up the blames to try to grab crashes. I don't believe logger console is actually needed. We're going to try without, because I don't think it's needed. But I will point out that even though that's there, we get down to the bottom, and you'll note the data collector blame is throwing a file not found exception. So dump was enabled, but no dump file was generated, which means I'm pretty confident that if I look at this guy on his summary, right, and look at the attached files, I don't get a darn thing. So there's that. So seeing it in action might be a little generous. Let's just take a look at the screenshot. Oh, hang on. Why does this thing... why is this thing logging? Can click through menus is logging screenshots every time. Why is it doing that? And mouse inputs. Oh, look at that. So can click through menus is, for whatever reason, logging out a bunch of extra screenshots. Can click through. Come on. There, that one. Can click through menus. Oh, look. Save screenshot, save screenshot. Go on a limb. Those are what are causing the screenshots to be generated. But those are only 2. Why did that show a 3rd? Line 3, line 69, and line 73. 69, 73. Is there one up above? Can click through context menus with no prefix. What? That's not the one that failed. Very confused. Did I not appropriately search for that method? Well, so that the method's right there, the save screenshot one. Yeah, I suppose a quick... There's only those 2. So this is the beauty of this save screenshot method, is you'll note it actually captures the caller's line number, which is rather convenient because that's how I was able to go, well, there's the one from line 69, there's the one from line 73. Yeah, I liberally abused that feature. I'm trying to remember though what would give me no hyphen -3 until it records a line number that doesn't have that method. Yeah, it also does limit like its ability to capture that information is somewhat limited. Like, for example, in order for it to know where to go, you have to instantiate it inside the unit test. right? If you tried to say, oh, well, you're doing this on all the tests, let's do it inside the initialize, no dice. No, so it's not done with reflection. There is a handful full of attributes that start with caller. And so you'll note these are declared as optional parameters, but at compile time, this call to new, the compiler actually goes through and populates those strings accordingly, right? So it'll populate the caller file path, the unit test method, all of that stuff in there, which is very convenient. It's like it failed. Those are C# parameters. Yep. They are, so the caller file path and the caller member name are, I don't know if I've seen use cases for these outside of like logging or like fancy login situations, because how often is the file path, because the caller file path, this is the file path on disk at compilation time, which may or may not be at all related to where it is at runtime. So this one oftentimes, again, it's very logging related. The caller member name, this one was largely put in to support the iNotify property change stuff for bindings, because it is highly convenient to be able to just grab that. And then line number, once again, outside of logging situations, I don't know if I've seen this sort of thing. So in order to get that, sorry, I'm just looking at how it sets it up. So it has no suffix, which would be this use case here. But it does have a line number. Wait, hang on, something's confusing me. Line base file name, test suffix, hyphen, image increment. So what I actually got here was test method name, which would be the base file name, which comes from the unit test method. This is the unit test method. There is no test suffix. Right, that makes sense. And there is no line number being passed in. So this would typically be this guy is set up as a disposable. And one of the things that he does is, if you, oh, I bet you there's no success call on him at the end, so he's always screenshot. Yes, that's the problem. So recorder success. So what it's the third screenshot is coming when this guy gets disposed. If you don't call success on him, he automatically captures a screenshot, which is usually convenient, because typically what will happen in one of these tests is one of these asserts throws, which means you never get down to here. So the disposing of this guy ends up just taking a screenshot of whatever was on the screen at the point the failure occurred, which is almost always what you want, right? Which is how I've set this up. So yeah, so not calling success. I wish there was a way to detect when this wasn't there, but okay, so that'll clean that up. But it still doesn't explain why I have passing tests locally and failing tests up above. So how about .NET test? Well, let's start with some obvious cases. Set to release, run. You could write an analyzer. Yeah, that would probably be a worthwhile thing to do at some point, is because I can make some assumptions about where this test recorder class gets used. I know that I'm looking to see the success call inside of it. And really just flag any instance where you call new test recorder and there's not a call to recorder.success somewhere in the method. That might get a little weird of how you trace like variable references, but yeah. So that passed. Okay. I mean, let's let's just run the test here, I guess. .NET test release and see if this is filter, and then let's do, I don't know, app tests. Because this is fairly close to what's being run out on the build agent. Obviously without the filter, but I don't feel like waiting for all the tests to run. Because there's quite a few. So XAML test actually has a fairly large test suite. The vast majority of those tests just tend to be written by source generators. No test matches the given test filter. Really? Oh, because I'm in the bloody wrong project. This is, yeah. So that ain't gonna work. Okay. Same song, second verse. This should do better. So it found a test file. It's running through the files in that test. They all passed. Well, that is somewhat disappointing. That is highly disappointing. They all worked just fine. Well, let's do this. Create branch, clean up, build artifacts. So we do have that I want to get in. I do want to test it without the console log on there. And then that's just white space. So cleaning up extra output images. Points for spelling. Oh, that's the wrong branch. Oopsie. Create branch. Boom, boom, boom. Push PR. Do the needful. Yeah. Do the needful. Then I want to reset my local one to there. View on GitHub. Yeah, that kicks all that off. We'll see how that goes. It's bothering me a great deal that something changed and it was like so. So let me. We're gonna create a branch here. Debug. And I just want to squash all three of these and look at the sum total of them. Because apparently I made a lot of changes here. And most of these probably don't matter. Like a lot of these were just fixing the casing of some of the underlying exception types. So it looks like a lot of changes, but in reality, most of these are fairly superficial. Oh, and this is one that bit me. Is net 7, there is a change to get process by ID. If you attempt to retrieve an ID of a process that's been exited, it throws, which is an exciting change in behavior. Actually, that's a good question. Would that... so is there a good way to get the PR difference between two branches and get cracking without squashing? I think there is. Let me see here. So you can just do this, right? So I tend to squash because I click around a lot and I don't like reselecting. But you can just multi-select commits and look at the set of changes in those commits. Now, it's worth noting that's subtly different than the view you're going to get PRing in. They will be the same if your base of your branch is where you're PRing into. However, if like in this situation where masters migrated forward, looking at the set of these changes and looking at the PR will be different. So, but one of the easy ways is just doing this. Like this will be close. The other thing you can do is you can always just, like, for example, merge in, right? No. And if there's no conflicts, you can just look at the merge commit, which is again slightly different than just squashing. I just tend to do the squash thing because I find it easy. Let's see. What's the old behavior for get process ID? That is, let's pull this up. Net 7 get process by ID. So if we look here, yeah, so note net 7 here, argument exception, the identifier might be expired. So if the process ID parameter is not running, I think a better way to say that is the process with that ID is not running, right? If we go back, why is it not seen? These are still showing the same thing. There was I could have sworn I looked up this under the list of breaking changes. Let's see, ASP.NET Core, .NET Core libraries. Am I crazy? Doing the upgrade to Net 7 is where I came across it, and maybe I made the assumption that it was a behavioral change. Because prior to the Net 7 upgrade, I did not run into that same issue. And it wasn't until I upgraded that I ran into this. So this changed from oh, so this was doing it ahead of time, and then this went into a do while. So in the event of the argument exception being thrown, process gets null. What is process? Maybe I should look at app.cs. Oh, stop it. This is not the right one. Nope, stop it, Visual Studio. Let's see, clean up those usings. Let's see. That one's the one that I want. No. That one. Clean up more usings. Let's see. Let's see. The change may be and process has exited because that was called in your while. Ah, good catch. Good catch. Yeah, because the basic Boolean condition is the same. I'm trying to think. I'm just trying to follow the flow. The first time in. Oh, I wanted to look at where this process property comes from. There's no way I'm getting a null. No, I can't get a null there. Because I will have that guy. And the whole point in doing this is grabbing... Why am I looking the process up by ID? Is it because process refresh didn't respond? Because theoretically, I should have been able to just check that. No, Copilot, hands off. This is not your time to shine. You be patient. Because the logs that we get are just starting service and then dead. I'm curious if this thing hasn't... Oh, it has failed. Interesting. And this thing just now failed on a very different set of tests. Well, so this one's the same. On start remote, launches remote app. That one's the same. And that is on... Which version? That is on the Net 6 one. Yeah, I see. I see. I was already looking at it. Don't collapse it on me. Then this one here. Oh, you know, I wonder. Because I'm noticing I'm seeing... Test run... So test run for net 6, everything passed. Everyone's happy. But down here... Okay, so this is all net 7 failures, right? That is a net 7 failure. That is a net 7 failure. Okay, so it's just net 7 changes that are breaking. Interesting, interesting, interesting. Why would that be the case? So creating application. So the remote app is starting. It's calling initialize component. And that's the end of the log. This one down here just straight up died. It's like there's a behavioral difference that I'm not seeing. I am interested, did it log crash dumps? No dump file. See, that's just dumb. That's just dumb. Okay, so, but regardless, what that tells me is that when looking at these tests, the only cases I care about, let's see, test explorer. Where'd you go? I don't care about net 6 in the least. I only care about net 7. Let's just run these real quick. Because net 6 all passed. And I don't believe I if-defed anything for net 7. Which is mildly terrifying, because that means there's some difference. But they all work. They all work for me. Okay. That's not helpful. Let's go back up here. I want to look and see, was there anything... Excuse me. I am curious if we're gonna make one quick change here real quick, because I would like to grab those log files that are being generated as well. Let's see. Upload how about test logs. And this is not here. This is going to be more akin to this. And so we'll do that. Let's see. Test logs sounds like a great name. And then we're going to do star.log. Few changes. Oh, we want to be over stash, cleanup. Wish I could apply stashed file. There we go. That's what I want. That. Upload test logs. There we are. Thank you. Get Kraken. You were amazing. Carry forth Kraken. So for anybody who missed that, I stashed my files, then went over to my other branch because there was changes in here that were clearly going to break because of conflicts. But then came over here and went, yeah, just apply that one. Mwah. Get Kraken. You make me so happy. So happy. So happy. Okay, so that should kick off yet again. No, I'm curious what ends up happening in terms of those logs. Because the fact that these aren't reproducing locally is really annoying. And they're specific to the app tests. I was hoping there was going to be some weird difference. You know, let me look. We aren't doing anything weird. No, because we're installing all versions of .NET. 3167. Right? 3167. I do wonder if we do this. Let's see. That should be fine. That should be fine. Different here. Oh, we dropped. Oh, I dropped running tests on Net Core App 3.1 because there wasn't any functional difference between them. Oh. Oh. Is that one of the differences? No, I was previously multi-targeting, so that shouldn't be different. That shouldn't be different. That one has, so the generator has to be net standard. Okay, we're gonna just push that change real quick too. Um, dropping, what is the right term for that? It's like runtime version. Uh, that dropping Windows version. That seems fine. Push. Push, 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 push. Okay, so you're going, you're going. I don't think that'll cancel this one. I think it just queues a second one. Yeah, good. I kind of want to let this one roll. I don't know if it's going to make much of a difference. See if we get anything useful here. We shall see. For anybody interested, next week I may have already picked out my content for it or for the stream. There's I may go and spend some time actually building out an app. So a colleague of mine, we do a lot of Scrum pointing poker. So, and often we use this website here to do it. And there's not a lot done here. But this site tends to have a lot of availability issues. I don't know if it's just experiencing too much load, falling under its success, or what. But this site is about 90% of what we want for what is a fairly basic situation. So you join a session, right, and then you come in, and then you can show votes, do votes. It's just a way for a Scrum team to effort out items. But we may look like, or we may build out our own version of this because it's a fairly simple app. And given all of the pain and suffering we've had with availability, because there's a bunch of sites online. Like this is not, I'm not anywhere close to the first person to go through and think, oh, that's an easy thing. I'll just build one real quick. Apparently, people have done like hundreds of them. But the there's always something that's a little bit off about it. So we're gonna throw together a replacement. So if anybody is interested, we even went to the effort of buying a domain and everything. So the name is actually going to be, and I should edit this real quick. Pointer star commit changes. Commit. The idea be so this is a joke on C++ pointers. But it seemed like a great thing. We got a domain. So we're going to build it. And it seems really like it does not seem like that hard of a thing to build. So if anybody is interested, I'm planning on logging issues and getting a plan put together. But if people would like to contribute, hit me up. I'm happy to get people added, or feel free to pull request in. This is still very much planning stages, so I might tell people wait until like at least the base project's in. But hopefully it's something that actually works well enough. What tech will it use? Blazor. Probably. That's where I'm thinking. And again, kind of planning this out, I had contemplated a number of different things. Like after last week's adventures with Orleans, I was like, we could go that route. And then I realized that initially, I don't need a lot. It may end up being Blazor with SignalR. And if I get to the point where it's falling under its own success of too many users and we can't handle it, that's an okay problem to have. We can address that problem. Like, I'll deal with that problem when it gets to it. I think the first step is path of least resistance to get it out the door. So I think it's going to be just a simple app service, SignalR, probably gen with group stuff. Like I said, I started writing up some of the items in here. There is a milestone where I wrote down all of the requirements that we came up with. So this is what MVP needs to be able to do. So that it seems easy. Seems easy. Um, yeah. We'll see how it goes. I think, like I said, I feel like it will be easy. And then given the number of times we fought with issues on the other site, and again, it could just be the other site falls under too much load from its own success and can't handle it, which is, I applaud them. They've built a site that is very usable most of the time. I just want higher uptime. And if I have to pay money in Azure to get it, I'll do that. Okay, so once again, it's the Starts Remote app. What's surprising me is this is now the test run in net 6 that's triggering. It's like this test itself is flaky. I'm also wondering if it's possible that the tests are running in parallel. Even if that was the case, they shouldn't step on each other, though, would they? I don't think so. Is parallel execution disabled? I thought so. But that's a good question. Let's see. That would be, where would I have put that? It's an assembly level attribute, I believe. Where would I have put it? There's a bunch of assembly attributes. That ain't it. Using validation tests. Clean up usings. Clean up usings. Where is... Don't see... I believe... Let's... Because it was dual executing before. But I am realizing that there's probably a subtle change here. It was running net 6 and 3.1. And now it's running 7 and net 6. Let's just take a quick gander here. It seems like it would... Hey, Chris. Yeah, trying to figure out why we're getting failures on my XAML test library. And for anybody who wants to play along at home, there's the link to it. I'm XUnit parallel test. See, even if it was running in parallel, I don't think that both TFMs should be able to run side by... Oh. Been messing with ChatGPT much. I never realized it's super late. Yeah. Time flies when you're having fun. Yeah, that's not... There's an XUnit something. Where's the docs for this? Parallelism in runners. Console runner. Misbuild runner. Da, da, da. So parallel none, but I am not sure that flows through. Sets to true, runs the test assemblies. We could probably do this with MS Build, I imagine. Because we aren't using the X unit runner. There is a section about frameworks on that page. Yes. Runners and test frameworks. Within a single assembly. Yeah, see, I think I'm in the latter case, though. Support running test assemblies in parallel against each other. Yeah, this is the one. Collection behavior. I thought I had already set this in here, but let's just do a quick search. I have not set that. Oh, interesting. Well. That could be problematic. Let's do this. I've been favoring doing something like assemblyinfo.cs to store this kind of stuff. Just seems to work. So let's go get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. There. Don't I have a... Nope, I didn't put the whole thing on my clipboard. Yeah. Do that. Oh. Boom. Find it? What? The X unit? What is the namespace here? Killing me, Smalls. You're killing me. We're going to set this to, because I have a feeling this is also most likely to make a difference. False. Now, why can you not find this? Let's go back into here. Oh, because the... So it turns out if you're running with MS Test, you won't find any X units. Okay. Okay. That's how you know it's getting late when... Okay. Let's try this again. This time with feeling and without typing in the words X unit. Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Now supports in assembly pair execution. Let's see. So a run settings file. Did I set that up appropriately? Stop it. Test. It is. It very much is, except for Auto detect run settings. Solution wide run settings. There isn't one in here. Except for they did add parallelization, but you have to turn it on. Can enable globally. It can also be disabled globally as follows. And I think I kind of just want to do this to make absolutely certain. Parallel composition. Supported by VS Test Runner, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Test assembly, test class, test method can explicitly opt out when used at the assembly level. Used at the class level. So let's do that. Or at least try that. Because I don't think that's what's breaking me, but we're gonna make absolute certain. Let's put back that assembly info class. Just to make absolute certainty. You, come here. Paste. Be there. Let's go back to here. Close. Pull requests. Actions. I'm curious on the other failure here. Well, we got a lot of log files, so maybe there will be a hint. Let's see, we're looking at 7.0. Oh boy. Anything bigger than the 1K? Not really. Retrieving process. Argument exception. Interesting. So, is that the underlying cause? If I go back, do I see the same thing in like net6 logs? Okay, let me check a couple more. I'm just going to randomly pick a couple of the net7 ones. Yeah, I got lucky and landed on the one. I'll look at the net6 one, the one that has same thing. Program main heartbeat check. Interesting. So this heartbeat check exists over inside a XAML test because this thing is both a library as well as an executable, and so the unit test project passes in its PID process ID, and this guy down here, where is it? Heartbeat timer. He creates a timer that just watches that PID and says, hey, you alive? You alive? You alive? You alive? And if it doesn't get it, I'm wondering if I should actually have this guy not log those errors and instead do the argument exception here. Because this does shut down true. And then invoke shutdown on itself. I guess it doesn't matter. Both of these are going to fall into the same case. This is null is meaningless though, because this is also a non-nullable thing. Okay, I don't think that's the root cause of any of this. So this is the later one. Let's just take a quick. This one passed. Oh, I hate this so much. I hate this so much. Because that would imply it's timing related. Oh, yuck. Oh, yuck. That is totally exciting. Oh, I hate that. So this thing failed, but then failed on the pack. Oh, these are included under TFMs. Some files are included under TFMs, which are missing in a platform version. Okay, so I broke that as part of this. Ay, 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 ay. Let's see here. That is probably the other reason for the net 7 bits. Let's see. Because then I don't have to specify that at the time of pack. Yeah, let's just put it back. Let's see. Revert. Immediately commit the reverted change. No. And then pop those guys. Oh, stop it. Amend. Amend. There. Now pop. There. Happy? Okay. Let's take a quick look. That's helpful. I don't actually want that change. I do 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 want that change. Um, let's see. The opting out of station. Let's see. There. Commit.